This is the Guild of Dungeoneering. On a quest we're never veering. Oh, to be a Dungeoneer, swimming in pools of gold.
Hey everybody out there, my name is Dragnix, and this is Guild of Dungeoneering. Gotta love that intro and that music. Before I begin this Let's Try, I want to make sure you guys know that I obtained this key from the developer. I reached out to them in exchange for some coverage on their game. They gave me a key. That won't influence my opinions on the game, but keep that in mind. Guild of Dungeoneering is an interesting $14.99 title that combines card games and dungeon crawling, which is a little bit of a weird mix-up, but it works very well here. It's similar to Hand of Fate in some senses, but more strategy elements more than anything else, and not action. Alright, so we start off on the map here, and we're going to take a look at some quests here that we could possibly do for our guild. Now, I've got a bunch of characters and a bunch of options in terms of the amulets and the blessings that I take in. I'm going to play as the alchemist for this first one. Note that each character has their own deck, and in particular, they have their own strengths and weaknesses, as you'll have to figure it out as you go along. The alchemist is a little bit different. It heals more than anything else. Now, as you start the game, you are given 5 cards, and you have to construct the dungeon around you. Now, in the top right corner, you see my objective, which is I have to defeat Medusa before I'm petrified in 10 turns. Well, how do I do that? Well, I need to be able to move, so the first thing I'm going to do is play the Mysterious Fountain, and I'd be able to move into that area next turn, as you see by my little footsteps. I'm also going to play a monster there, and you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute, why would you want to play a monster? Well, monsters are the way you level up, and so, like any good old RPG, you are going to want to grind. And so we're going to go right into the battle section of this. So, first thing to note is the types of cards there are. For example, she's playing a 2 magic damage, block 1 magic damage. The shields are damage that can be taken, and the sort of stars are damages that can be taken out. So I'm going to play this card, this Flask of Pixie Tears. I'll block all of her damage, and it gives me a buff of 2 magic damage the next turn around. And so, if I play Flask of Acid now, you'll notice that I do 4 damage. Now, you'll also note on the bottom there that I have special abilities, like Blessed. I get +1 with every heal with the Alchemist, and so, even though he did me 1 damage, I was able to counter him and be able to do 2 healing. Simple enough, right? He's also got Tenacious, meaning that I can't necessarily deal the same amount of damage in terms of, I won't be able to kill him in this one turn because of the fact, yeah, I'm doing 4 damage here, but his Tenacious keeps him alive. Now, what's interesting about the game in terms of the gameplay here is that each character plays rather differently. Now, you do have basic physical and magical attacks as shown by the blue and red, the red punching and the blue lightning bolt there, but each character has this little twist on it. Like, for example, you've seen with the Alchemist here that you're gonna want to take cards that are healing. Now, when I beat that character, or that monster in question, I got a card, and that card gives me loot. That will give me additional cards or benefits of some sort, and I really want to play towards the strength of my character. That's really important in the Guild of Dungeoneering, is the fact that there is no optimal strategy for every character. There's an optimal strategy for that character and that character alone, and you have to understand what that character does well and what the character does poorly in order to succeed. The way that the guilds and the dungeons are sort of, designed, you have to understand that there are better people for specific quests. In this case, I'm finding that I'm facing a lot of people that can block and, have unblockable damage and things like that. I'm going to be able to take damage more than anything else. And that's why I chose the Alchemist in this case, because I'm able to heal. Some will do better against physical damage, some will do better when you're able to block, so on and so forth. Now you see that lunge card, that's an unblockable card. Okay, let's go to the loot here. So for the loot, I can choose any 3 of these cards. I end up choosing the Troll Femur because it gives me a bunch of cards, and I think I can use them wisely. I also find the treasure here, and I take the Mage Robes because I haven't gotten anything on my body. You have 4 items in question that you can equip on your head, in your main hand, your offhand, and on your body. So you can't equip more than one at any time, and so you'll have to discard the other one in order to use it. Now, one thing you'll notice the style, and I do like sort of the hand-drawn, it feels very almost like Dungeons and Dragon-esque, and I know that sounds weird because, I mean, do you play on paper? No, but it feels like, you know, you're in a back room. There's sort of graph paper in the background. You know, you're sort of, you know, a nerdy person sitting there, you know, playing in this sort of environment. It feels sort of authentic to me. I also like the additions of the equipment on the character themselves, which really does feel authentic and genuine. Now, one thing to note about the game is the fact that the randomization, while there is a random sense to it, I never get the sort of unreal feeling that it's really screwing me over. Now, in games like this, it's going to be really tricky because of the fact that, you know, you are getting certain cards and you're able to sort of construct your deck, and I mean that very, very lightly. You're able to add to those cards, but your base cards are always what they are. But the thing is that I never felt like the game just sort of screwed me in the end. I felt like that I made the choice to fail in this case. I chose the wrong cards to choose. I chose to go attack when I should have defended, so on and so forth. And that's what's nice about the game. Now, the game is difficult. There is a sort of trial and error element to it, which is a little bit interesting. The thing is that when you go into a dungeon, there is an optimal strategy, as I said before. And if you choose the wrong hero, that will become apparent when you're just getting your butt handed to you. Now, when your hero dies, they die. So they're put into the graveyard. You'll get another hero of that type, but if you were like, you know, sort of naming your hero a certain type, you can lose them. There isn't the sort of punishment that I would hope to see in a game like this. Like, you know, maybe I lose that type of character for a turn or a dungeon or two, but I do understand why they did that, especially with the sort of optimization options on the battles in question. Now, as you saw there, Binding Light was a choice of an item in terms of it for me to get from one of my item loots in question, and it works perfectly for my character. The fact is I'm able to block, and for per block damage, I get heals, plus the Blessed Healed gave me more than I would have bargained for. I'm pretty much looking for anything with hearts on them with Honey at this point. Some of the names are a little bit strange, however, because, I mean, you get names like Honey. There was one where I literally could not pronounce because literally it was like about 6 consonants right next to each other. And anybody who's watched this channel before, I have problems with the English language, let alone some, you know, foreign names or foreign pronunciations. Now, one thing you have to note is you got to take advantage of the information that's given to you. Like, here I go and play a man-eating plant, but I forget that the jungle shaman, one of his abilities is that anybody who's near him gets +1. He's a leader. So I end up actually buffing him, unfortunately. Now, one thing I will say about this combat is the fact that while it's simplistic, it works rather well. And I like the little touches, like the fact that it doesn't go overboard with it. The fact of the matter is that it's very simple, it's very straight to the point. You see, like, when it does damage there, you know, the character pops out a little bit, but it doesn't, like, need the animations, and it doesn't take away from the game in question, and I like that. I like the simplicity of this. The thematic portions of this game work rather well, and the music does sort of go along with it. Now, as you saw at the start of this review, the person who's doing sort of the bard element of the game, in terms of like singing about the guild and things like that, that was particularly done well, and I really like that portion. Now, what else can I say about Guild and Dungeoneering? Well, there is one thing I have to sort of caution regarding this game, and something I would like to see changed if possible. The way that you construct your dungeon is very key, and in particular, it's very key regarding what paths you allow. You'll notice that I was very specific about what items I put down and what items I didn't. And while that seems like that would be a common sense thing, it's more about not making paths that seemingly you want to make later on. What do I mean by that? Well, I could have made a path to Medusa very early on, but the thing is that your character will make decisions based off of, what is the most benefit for them. And sometimes when you put down too many land cards in question, you end up going to places that you don't want to go. Like, your character will go towards a portion of the map that you really don't want them to be at. You wanted them to go somewhere else. I wish you had the choice of moving your character in certain elements, but on the flip side of that, I can understand why they did that in terms of you could just sort of accumulate gold that way. As you saw there, you can randomly be given gold in your drops in terms of the cards that are dealt to you, or if you don't choose to take gold or a weapon or an item in as one of the loots, then you could take gold and place it down. So I could see that sort of working against that idea, but I feel like there was a better way of doing it in terms of like, okay, I want to move here, and after a certain point, maybe like make it maybe a limited, like I can only tell them to go twice or 3 times. Now, I actually lose this battle because I don't think of things well enough, and sometimes I just don't consider the possibilities. Like here, okay, this is perfect because I take a health. Flask of acid, I go with Mind Strike. I probably should have gone for the damage there because I had enough cards in my hand at this point. And I also don't have the ability to counter her spider bites at this point, which is a major problem because she's able to just deal that damage. Now here I'm able to use the Flask of Pixie Tears, which is great, but now I'm screwed. I don't have any way I can really deal with this, and basically I'm dead at this point because I'm dead. So I can't counter it. And that's my choice that I made with this character and sort of the equipment that I got, and that ended up, costing me that run. So you really have to consider exactly what you need to do in order to get through the dungeon. Now, I'm going to be very specific on that because I do think there is one sort of caveat to that, and that being the ranger. And I'm going to tell you exactly why and show you exactly why in a second. I'm also noting that you can, name your own heroes when they come in, these new posters. Oh, shucks, because I just lost. But in the Dungeoneering Hall, you can sort of look at your Dungeoneers, you can sort of poke them and prod them. You can also expand your guild. Expanding your guild will get you more maybe heroes, equipment, or items that you can find in the dungeon. It's based off the gold that you bring back, and like right now, for example, I have the ability to go out and pay for some of it. I will show you right about here. Alright, so what we're going to show you here is the expand guild function, so I can choose exactly what to buy next. I may be able to buy a new character, I may be able to buy some more equipment, or another blessing for me to take in. Now, I'm going to buy a shapeshifter here because I wanted to try out the new classes. One thing I will say about the classes is I wish they gave a generic description, or as you sort of play with them, that you could go and, look at their specific decks later on, because you sort of forget, which character is which at times, and I do wish I could optimize in terms of understanding, okay, what does the shapeshifter do more differently than maybe, let's say, the brawler, for example, or the bruiser, I should say. Now, we're going to do one more for you here, and this is in particular with the Ranger class, because unfortunately I found that the Ranger class sort of outshines everybody else at this point. And I'm showing you a little bit of some of my, the graveyard and some of the characters I killed. I've played about 8 hours of this. It says 18 on my Steam profile. I accidentally left it up overnight. Oopsies. But we're gonna play as, you see, remember those, consonants problems? Yeah, I know there's a Y in there, but I'm not going to even pronounce that name right now, because dang. So, what is so special about the Ranger, in my opinion? Well, the thing is that the Ranger's special ability seems to really give him a huge advantage over things. And I do think there's a balance problem here, because I found that even with some of his weaknesses, the strength seems to counterbalance it. Now, what am I talking about? Well, you'll see here that the range skill, all physical attacks are quick, and +1 damage if they were already quick. Quick attacks are important because if you're dealing damage to, like, let's say you both have 2 health left. If nobody's quick, you both do damage at the same time. And so even if you were to kill a monster, if they got 2 damage on you, you're dead. Quick, on the other hand, is like sort of the Magic the Gathering quick strike ability. I hope that was quick strike. If it was a flash, no, it's I think quick strike. Basically, you attack first. And if you attack first, that means that in some situations, you're going to be able to do the damage that you need before they are and sort of get the upper hand. The fact that you can attack first and that often with the physical attacks with no downsides is very, very important because it has saved me several times from dungeon runs. I almost think it's a little bit too easy because it's made some dungeons that I would have problems with other characters that seem to be balanced for that character. It made that dungeon a little bit easier. Not to say that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe I'm just playing the dungeons that seem to work towards the ranger in question, and maybe I'm optimizing better for him. But I still, when I look at the character skills, right now the ranger seems to sort of outclass everybody else. What else can I say about the game? Now, like, you see some of the unblockable skills and the draw card skills and things like that. Hand size is important because, again, the more options you've got, the better you're going to be. What I noticed is that I was sort of ignoring the discard forcing at that point, but if you ignore that, you end up in situations where you don't have, many options. And options is a good way of dealing with a lot of the enemies in this game, even if you're a lower level than them, which you got to realize that, hey, sometimes you're going to face it like a Minotaur or a Medusa that would normally be able to kick your ass. But if you know how to counter them, then yeah, you're going to be able to do a lot against them. I also think this camouflage in particular is one of those, abilities that I end up repeatedly using because not only does it block against, red and blue, so I can use it against either, even though it's 1 damage, it sort of lets me buff my next attack, and with all the buffs that can happen, yeah, that's huge. As you saw there, the camouflage, I needed that for the restore. Sometimes it's better to hold cards back more than anything else because of the fact that if you get a card like Restore, that could really sort of shift the tides. Now, you've seen a lot of the same sort of gameplay here, but what's nice about this is, again, the strategies and the different elements of it. And in particular, it just does everything so well in terms of that balance. Now, I've given a lot of praise to the game. I will say that there are elements to the game that I wonder whether or not this game was designed to be on a mobile platform at first. I'm noting a lack of options in terms of like the sound, and really there's no options whatsoever in terms of the main menus. And I find that a little bit strange, especially because it seems like this game could be played on a tablet of some sort, just given like the UI and everything around it. But it's almost like it was designed for that, but it's only coming to the PC as of my knowledge of it right now. So that I find a little bit strange. In terms of the game performing or anything like that, I never ran into any performance issues. The game sort of just runs along just fine. I do wish they had a unique mouse pointer. The mouse pointer does actually sort of stand out here compared to everything else, and I don't know why they decided to go this way with it. I do wish it was sort of maybe like a pencil, for example. That would have made sense in terms of sort of the overall themes to it. One other thing I also need to note here is the fact that I don't think I noted this before. If you go into those cloud areas, you can only move once, but if you've already sort of looked at a section, then you can go twice. Now, again, the issue with that is, once again, you don't really have control of your character as much as I think you should, and so you have to sort of lure the character over with, like, loot. Again, you're not full in control. It's like you're sending a guy out into the dungeon and sort of just pushing him along. Pushing him along is great, but if he's sort of not, I don't want to say not paying attention, but if he's not doing what you want him to do and you can't figure out exactly what it is to make him do what you want to do, that can be frustrating. Overall, the game is definitely worth your time, and it does seem like it's going to get more content as the game progresses through Steam at this point. On the prices in question, the $14.99 is for the base game. $19.99 also gets you the OST, as well as the first adventure pack, which makes it sound like it's going to be downloadable DLC. Now, again, we can talk about DLC all day. This is the kind of game I could see DLC working for in terms of like, okay, more card combinations, and it will take time to balance, especially with this game. I see like any new character, any new card, you're gonna have to really consider what it adds to the game, because it seems well balanced in terms of every item within it, every thought in it put into it. And that's really hard to do at times with games like this. Now, like I said, the Ranger to me seems overpowered. I haven't run into a situation where the Ranger hasn't been able to take out something. That may change. Maybe I've just gone through several levels after I've gotten the Ranger where, you know, I was able to get through them just because of maybe sheer dumb luck or so on and so forth. But it does feel overall that the game rewards cleverness in the use of your cards more than anything else, rather than just luck. Alright, this is Dragnix signing out. I will put the review in the description below to Steam. Again, like it, don't like it. You know, it does help me get a little bit of exposure on the channel page, in the Steam page, I should say. And again, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you all later. If you missed my last video, take a look at the right-hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.